David Edward Maust, a serial killer with a life of psychiatric killer. He felt remorse about killing. That is the strangest. He was exposed to the cruelty of life at a really young age. He tried to control himself, but that longing to kill and destroy won. He pleaded to be locked in solitude. He begged to die, even but no one heard his plea. A murderer you will feel pain and pity for. This is the story of David Edward Maust. American serial murderer David Edward Maust, April 5, 1954, January 20, 2006, preyed primarily on male teenagers. Both Germany and the United States were targets of his murderous rampage. He received a 35-year prison term in 1984 and was freed on probation in June 1999. After he was released and off probation, he committed more murders, leading to his ultimate arrest and 3 consecutive life sentences without parole. About a month after his most recent sentencing, in January 2006, Maust hanged himself in his prison cell. Workers at the prison discovered a suicide note in which he admitted to 5 murders and expressed regret to the victims' loved ones. After reaching his 51st year, Maust retired. In the year 1954, David Edward Maust was born in Connellsville, Pennsylvania. George and Eva Maust were his parents. The name Maust has its roots in Amish culture. When Maust was 7, his father got a divorce and abandoned the family. Maust's dad had to go into foster care when he was a kid since his parents died when he was 12. His mother was labeled as schizophrenic and suffering from mental illness, according to official documents. At his mother's urging, Maust was placed in a mental institution when he was just 9 years old. His mother said he burned down his brother's bedroom and tried to drown his younger sibling. A social worker labeled his mother as disturbed, psychotic, functioning marginally, needy, and narcissistic. After a month in a Pennsylvania mental institution, she was released. The institution where Maust was housed was reportedly full of youngsters whose families were unable or unwilling to care for them due to their own mental illness, according to a report written years later. It was widely believed that Maust's mother had dumped him at the facility. When asked why she had brought him there, his mother said, "Staff there did not observe the lying, stealing, and out-of-control behavior." It was requested of his mother that she elaborate on the problems her son produced during home visits, but she did not. Ultimately, she stated that she just doesn't want him at home. In truth, Maust had a history of violence in his youth, including an incident in which he choked, but did not murder, 2 pals. His siblings said that Maust once killed a squirrel for fun by hitting it with a baseball bat. The brother remembered that Maust had been abused when he was little. Maust was a model patient at the hospital, but his lack of visits from his mother left him feeling lonely and abandoned. When Maust was 13 years old, he was living in a children's home after being released from the hospital, where he was the target of sexual advances from another boy. Maust claimed that one morning he woke up to discover a naked Jimmy, a child he had befriended, sleeping on top of him in his room. Even Maust was naked, he claimed. A month after the incident, both he and the youngster went for a moped ride in the neighboring woodland to work out their feelings about it. Maust led the youngster farther into the woods while brandishing a knife. He then had the youngster chained to a tree and proceeded to beat him with his fists and eventually a board. Because it was a sad, bad thing, Maust never revealed the details of what happened that night. He was a very good boy, and he did not deserve what happened to him on that sad night in May, she wrote. As the story goes, I was angry with myself because I did not know what to do for the youngster at this point, so I picked up Jimmy to carry him deep into the woods to hide him, and after about 10 feet, Jimmy died in my arms. He hid himself in the woods by covering himself with leaves, and then he left. Nearly 7 months ago, he made a pact with himself that he would kill Jimmy as soon as the youngster acquired a full head of hair. When Jimmy grows out his hair, I'm going to kill him, I thought to myself. On the day I killed Jimmy, he had long hair, as described by Maust. A month or so later, the boy's body was discovered in a bomb crater, according to Ronald Zeke, a sergeant at the same base and a friend of Maust's. Zeke stated in an interview that Maust's defense attorney claimed the adolescent died after crashing his moped because someone put a screwdriver into the wheels. He explained that the prosecution's inability to locate witnesses led to Maust's conviction for manslaughter. More than 3 years were added to his sentence at Leavenworth, Kansas. Maust tried to go back to his mother, but she didn't want him there and threatened him with a knife when he showed there. In 1971, at the ripe old age of 18, his mother took him to a recruiter for the Army. After completing recruit training at Fort Benning and advanced individual training at Fort Ord, he was sent to Frankfurt, Germany in 1972. He was a competent cook and serviceman in the Army. He was an avid bowler as well, averaging 297 and taking home a number of trophies and cash prizes from the Army Bowling League. Where did everything totally go wrong in his life? After being found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in the 2009 death of McClister in Germany after an Army court-martial, Maust years later. After being sent to Fort Leavenworth's disciplinary barracks in 1983, Maust said that he was relieved to be there. "I was happy there and I wasn't hurting anyone. I was terrified to go back to the real world. I sobbed so much that all I wanted to do was stay, but the people there thought I was crazy because of it," Maust wrote. The Army let Maust go on May 10, 1977, and he flew to O'Hare International Airport. Before moving to Texas in 1981, Maust called Chicago home. On December 10, 1981, he was apprehended for severe assault in Galveston. In 1983, after entering a guilty plea, Maust was sentenced to 5 years in jail. He was then transported to Chicago to stand trial for Donald Jones's murder. Maust's murder case lingered in the Cook County, Illinois court system for over a decade. Maust spent a good portion of that time locked up in psychiatric hospitals in Illinois after doctors determined he was incompetent to stand trial. Maust admitted to killing Donald Jones in May 1994 and was given a 35-year prison term by an Illinois court. In June of 1999, Maust was given his freedom, but he had nowhere to go. A halfway home declined to accept him. Maust relocated to Oak Park, Illinois in 2000 after staying in a homeless shelter and a cheap motel, and then to Hammond, Indiana in 2003. On December 9, 2003, he was taken into custody and charged with James's, Regagni's, and Dennis's deaths. Defense attorney Mars Gonzalez said that the plea deal was fair to all parties involved, including Maust. For the atrocities he committed, Maust has been sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences in isolation. "He is unique in that he's remorseful for it," Gonzalez added. "We have no doubt that the client agrees and intends to spend the rest of his life in seclusion. He feels he has lost the ability to communicate with others." In another attempted murder in 2001, Maust hit a friend 6 times in the back of the head with a metal pipe. However, despite reporting the event to authorities, the friend decided not to press charges. Maust was taken into custody on December 12, 2003 for the slaying of 16-year-old James Regagni by strangulation. Regagni's body was discovered in Maust's basement in Hammond, Indiana, encased in concrete. Later, he was accused of killing Michael Dennis, 13, and Nick James, 19, by sealing them in plastic bags and placing them in concrete encasements. On September 10, 2003, authorities learned that both Regagni and Dennis had vanished. He admitted to all 3 murders and was given 3 consecutive life sentences in November 2005. About a month after his most recent sentencing in January 2006, Maust hanged himself in his prison cell. In a suicide letter discovered in his cell, he admitted to 5 murders and expressed regret to the victims' loved ones. After reaching his 51st year, Maust retired. The Maust case influenced public authorities in Indiana to push for a law that would create a database of convicted killers called the Violent Offender Registry. The likelihood of Maust continuing his murderous ways after his release from prison could have been diminished had the registry been in place.